Teamwork can be a thing of beauty. It's made up of a team leader and players who understand their roles and can anticipate the next move. The same is true on a job site. In this beehive of activity, everybody's running support for one machine, the excavator. You, as the operator, are the team leader and pace setter, and you play a key role in keeping support people coordinated and moving. If the job stops because you're waiting for pipe or your stone box is empty, the team suffers. Drive past any job site, and if the excavator is sitting still, they aren't making any money. So remember, teamwork is critical to a company's success, and successful companies keep people employed. That means you. We talked to professional operators from across the country who shared their tips with us, not only on how to make the most of the machine, but also how to keep the job moving and profitable. In this program, we'll cover these areas: inspecting the machine and the job site, planning the job, machine power and motion, trench development, and working with stone boxes. Your operator's manual lists all the things you should check during your pre-start walk-around, including fluid levels. Also, keep an eye out for any loose parts or leaking components. Broken down machines don't make money. Do an operational check to make sure your travel alarm and your swing brake are working. Before you even think about putting that bucket in the ground, make sure the one-call service has been notified and that all existing utilities are marked. Inspect the job site every day. Look for hazards like overhead power lines. When you're concentrating on an excavation, a power line can be easily and fatally overlooked. Take special note of anything you might back into, like fire hydrants, vehicles, materials, grade stakes, and utility markers. When you back up, swing around to make sure everything is clear and that the boss's car isn't back there. Also, make sure you have adequate tail swing clearance. Use barriers if there is a potential pinch point. By the way, getting caught between the counterweight and a fixed object will not result in a pinch. Finally, study after study has shown that seat belts save lives. It's true for your excavator, too. The seat belt will prevent you from being thrown from the cab and crushed by the machine. Don't think your machine will ever tip over? Think again. Every year, operators are killed in loading and unloading accidents because they didn't take 3 seconds to protect themselves. No job is worth this kind of risk. Planning the job always pays dividends. Work with your supervisor or foreman and discuss the best approach for a job. Remember, you're the team leader out there. The foreman has responsibility for the planning of the overall job, but you're the one charged with executing the plan. Good, clear communication results in a better job. Here are a few things to consider. Which end of the trench should you start from? Slopes and drainage situations may influence your decision. If you're working near a restriction like a fence or property line, begin your work next to the restriction and work away from it. In other words, don't paint yourself into a corner. Where will you place the spoil? Spoil must be placed a minimum of 2 feet from the trench. Don't bury utility markers. Other trades may need to see them. And don't place spoil where it will block concrete or dump truck access. What about the topsoil? Topsoil contains a lot of organic material, and when it decomposes, it causes shrinkage in the backfill. Save the topsoil for your final backfilling and grading work. The pros say that topsoil is gold. If the topsoil hasn't already been stripped off by a dozer, and if space permits, place it on one side of the trench and place the spoil on the other. When the trench is backfilled, the spoil goes in first, followed by the topsoil. The pros also say that water is the biggest enemy in construction work. Planning job site drainage can mean the difference between losing a day and losing a week after a heavy rain. Keeps the carpet at home a little cleaner too. Before you shut down each day, make sure water has a place to run. With trench work, always have a pump on hand. Know where the easements are, especially in city work. Piling spoil on somebody's lawn or driveway is a sure way to get the attention of the neighbors. Your machine is key to the productivity and profitability of every job. Always look for opportunities to keep the machine working. For example, during a trenching job, if there are gaps between haul trucks, don't sit around waiting for the next one to arrive. Keep working. The piled spoil can be loaded quickly by a wheel loader when the trucks arrive. In the meantime, effective work is being accomplished. A final thing about planning the job. Remember that your best tool is under your hard hat. Think, plan the job, and think through every move before you make it. You are responsible for a machine with tremendous weight and power. Communication with other crew members may be with hand signals, radio, or voice, but in all cases, eye contact with anyone near the machine is mandatory. Don't make a move until you are absolutely sure everyone in the immediate area understands what's about to happen. Never swing loads over workers or over the cab of a truck. Keep crew members away from suspended loads. If the load needs to be guided, use a tagline. You'll get more work done faster if you take advantage of the machine's design strengths. Digging power and speed are determined by mechanical and hydraulic factors. The most powerful and productive range of motion is when the arm is between the 8 and 5 o'clock position, as measured from this point. This 8 to 5 motion maximizes the machine's hydraulic power. Here's why. The middle of the cylinder stroke generates the most power. There is less digging power when the cylinder is nearing its fully extended or retracted position. Additionally, there is less feel for the operator at these positions. The 8 to 5 scenario offers a compact, efficient range of motion. The ability to carry a grade with a flat-bottom trench is a skill that separates the pros from the amateurs. Here are some key points to mastering the skill of creating a flat-bottom trench. The bucket angle and the amount of curl at the end of the digging stroke are important factors. Cutting with the bucket in this rolled back position and then doing a nearly full curl at the end of the stroke will create a divot in the trench bottom. Cutting with the bucket in the correct position requires only a small amount of curl at the end of the stroke. This minimizes the divot effect. Wonder if that'll work in my golf game. Another thing to watch for is trench taper. This happens because as the bucket and arm pass the 6 o'clock position, the bucket begins traveling upward, resulting in a tapering of the trench bottom. The easiest way to counteract trench taper is to simply use the amount of arm that's available and stop the digging stroke at the 6 o'clock position. The downside of this is that by stopping at the 6 o'clock position, you are reducing the length of your digging stroke. The pros sometimes use a more advanced technique. As the arm passes the 6 o'clock position, roll the bucket back slightly to maintain the proper tooth angle, and slightly lower the boom. This maintains the flat bottom throughout the entire length of the cutting stroke. Let's watch that one more time. This takes a lot of practice, but it's a productive technique for maintaining a flat bottom throughout the entire digging stroke. When you consider how many work cycles you do in an hour, then multiply that over the course of a day, a week, and then over the length of a job, you can see that shaving even a second or two off your work cycles can add up. Here are a few things the pros told us about getting into a productive rhythm as an operator. To begin, watch this comparison between an experienced operator and a beginner. Notice the smoothness and efficiency of the experienced operator's work cycle. What's he doing that's different? As the bucket dumps, the operator is already turning his attention to the next bucket contact point. The swing back to the trench is not wasted time. The pro is positioning the boom, arm, and bucket so that when the swing is complete, the bucket is in the correct cutting position to immediately begin the next pass. When he's dumping the spoil, he's using the arm to initiate the dumping process. Some operators just extend the arm and uncurl the bucket to dump. By combining functions and running the arm out as he dumps, he's using the machine's hydraulic power to sling the material out of the bucket. This makes for faster cycle times and less material sticking in the bucket. Notice, too, that the operator is only curling the bucket enough to prevent spillage. Curling more would be wasted motion. If conditions permit, dump off the corner of the track. This 2 o'clock position is the most efficient. Remember, spoil should be placed at least 2 feet away from the edge of the excavation. Dumping off to the side of the track requires extra swing time. That 2 o'clock position is also the best place for loading a dump truck on a sewer project. How you handle your machine around utilities is another skill that separates the pros from the amateurs. Even with all the known utilities marked, sometimes there are still surprises. The pros say that a long slicing action by the excavator allows the operator to sometimes feel obstructions during the pass. With a gouging action, most sensitivity is lost. Sensitivity is also diminished when curling, so at the end of your cut, don't curl the bucket. Lift the boom and bucket out of the cut, then curl the bucket if needed. The skill of feeling an obstruction is developed with experience and by slowing down. If you see variations in soil, like old backfill, gravel, or a change in material density, be suspicious and check it out. Ripping open an old septic tank is a good way to find out if your cab is airtight. Operating with the undercarriage idler wheels to the front and the final drive sprockets to the rear of the machine has some advantages. The foot pedals are oriented to this position. The extra weight in the back contributes to machine stability. And the final drives are less subject to the shock loads that occur at the front of the machine. This adds to the life of the undercarriage. As the team leader, you have a responsibility to your crew members to do the job as safely as possible. Never permit laborers to enter unsafe conditions. Trench cave-ins happen for a variety of reasons and always happen when they're least expected. Your best defense is to plan for them. Proper use of trench boxes and knowing how to slope sidewalls are the keys to being safe. On an open-cut trench, the slope should be benched as shown. Start on the outside and cut the first bench all the way across. Then move in closer and cut the second bench. Keep working this pattern until you reach the area that you're going to cut vertically. The finished cross-section should look like this. The depth of the excavation determines the width of the bench sidewalls. Place the spoil from the shallowest cut, the furthest from the trench. The OSHA minimum distance for a spoil pile from the edge of a trench is 2 feet. If the soil is sandy or unstable because of nearby traffic, the distance should be greater than 2 feet. Trench boxes should be used any time there is a danger of trench sidewall collapse. In deep excavations, you'll need to stack boxes. Other jobs will require the use of side plates in addition to the trench box. The bottom line? Don't take shortcuts. Think of that laborer as your son or daughter. Never take a chance with their safety. The newspapers are full of stories of those who've made deadly mistakes by sending laborers into harm's way. When setting the trench box, use professional rigging gear. Leave the homemade junk at home. Use a tag line to control the box. In the excavation, the trench box should not rest on the bottom of the excavation. When you bed the pipe with stone, the stone will slough off to the edges and you'll waste a lot of it. Rather, the trench box should rest in the excavation as shown. The shelves on either side of the pipe help contain the stone bedding, minimizing slough off and reducing waste. Stone bedding boxes help reduce stone waste on pipeline jobs and allow you, the excavator operator, a supply of stone within easy reach whenever you need it. It's usually the loader operator's job to keep the box full, but it's your job to be sure it's getting done. The box should be positioned where it's within easy reach, but also in a position where it can be dug out of and moved easily. Empty boxes can be picked up and moved as shown. Full boxes should be skidded or pushed along like this. Remember, the stone box is a tool. Use it the way it's designed to be used, by using the push-pull bar to move it. Careless use will cause damage and cost you money. The rest of the crew members take their cues from you. By setting the pace, you are providing effective leadership to your team. And it's a lot more fun and profitable being on a winning team. Start smart and be safe. This training program is part of the Tips from the Pros series. If you have operating tips you'd like to see covered in a future Tips from the Pros program, contact Vista Training Incorporated, P.O. Box 247, Burlington, Wisconsin, 53105-0247. Or on the web at www.vista-training.com.